This is Wildcat Country.
It's only right. The ball's in his hands. A milestone victory for Arizona. Simon says championship.
All the inside scoop on U of A athletics.
It's up for the end zone. Arizona has scored a touchdown. Wildcats win.
Let's go to work, brother.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale. It is the beginning of August. Training camp starts later this week. But Shane, we've had just a bunch of good news in the last week since we recorded late last week. It has been a very positive week for the Wildcats and their fans. And it's kind of surprising because we've kind of been through this roller coaster over the last year. But this week, it's all good news. And we're going to talk about football recruiting and men's basketball. And we are very pleased to be joined later in the show by Kian Burnett, the four-star recruit that just committed to Arizona, decommitted from USC, from Servite High School, where his teammate Noah Fafita is a quarterback commit for the Wildcats in 2022. So we'll talk to Kian a little bit later in the show. He's a tight end and will be definitely a featured piece on offense. But Shane, I mean, you posted something on Twitter that I thought was very interesting. And I always say in general that the mark of a man is when he knows how to apologize or when he admits that he's wrong. And you said something on Twitter the other day about Jedd Fisch. Do you want to relay that here on the podcast?
Not really, but I'll go ahead and do it since you brought it up. I think most of Wildcat Nation was dead wrong. I didn't think Jedd Fisch was a good hire. I thought it was a mistake. And while and I've clarified that since then I've done a complete 180 and he's won me over. I was flat out wrong. And while many people have been kind enough to note that he hasn't coached a game yet, something that I hadn't realized until people pointed it out to me, I think that he's done everything right to the point where guys are excited to play for him. He's put together a tremendous coaching staff that can not only coach but can recruit. And he's put fun back in this program. He's the spring game, everything he's done right. And then of course there's the whole small matter of bringing some top talented guys to Arizona. And Kian Burnett's just the latest guy, a bona fide four-star guy, four-star tight end, the best tight end recruit that's come to Arizona since a guy named Gronk. If you haven't watched Kian's 3-minute commitment announcement video on YouTube that he posted on Twitter, we retweeted on Wildcat Country, do yourself a favor and watch it. It kind of goes with the theme of Jedd Fisch honoring the past while building a new future, a better future at Arizona. He does a great job of honoring his father's era, Chester Burnett, who played linebacker at Arizona under Dick Tomey and was a 7th-round pick in the 98 NFL draft. In the video, Keyan Burnett says, quote, "My dad was lucky enough to play for Coach Tomey. He built the program to be the best it ever was because he was a great person and his players loved playing for him. And when I met all the current staff, I could definitely see the similarities." Huge compliment from Keyan Burnett, right? So this isn't just a legacy commit. It's not like, okay, well, he got this is his only D1 offer. His father played here. It's a feel-good story. This is a legitimate, fantastic top 200 nationally, like number 7 ranked tight end in the country guy. A very, very impressive legacy commit for Jedd Fisch, Jordan Pow, and the Wildcats.
Last year under Kevin Sumlin, Arizona's recruiting class, and I guess Jedd Fisch took it over at the end, but was ranked 78th in the country out of 130. Right now, and albeit it's early and signing day isn't until December, but it's 38th, 4th in the Pac-12 as compared to 11th last season. And Keyan Burnett is their first 4-star commit. And now there is their teammate. So Noah Fafita and Kian Burnett's teammment, Tetaroa McMillan, and I may have messed up his first name. We'll call him T-Mac.
Just call him T-Mac.
T-Mac is almost a 5-star commit. 5-star commit in some places. 4-star, a very high 4-star, top 100 prospect according to 24/7 Sports. And Arizona is really in the mix here with Oregon and USC. And the fact that a team that hasn't won since September of 2019 is competing with the Pac-12 big boys for a recruit like this just shows how good a job Jedd Fisch and his staff have done. And Shane, you mentioned it earlier, and I'll own it too. When Fisch was hired, I didn't like it either. I didn't like it at all. We wanted Brent Brennan. But there is no way you can tell me right now that Brent Brennan would be doing a better job than what Jedd Fisch has been doing over the last 6-7 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking when we had Matt Moreno on from Go Easy Cats, does a great job from part of the Rivals Network. Had him on a few months ago before someone was fired, and we asked him about the 2021 class, and I said, "Is it? It looks like it's more quantity over quality," and he agreed with that. A lot of 3-star guys, they were ranked pretty much like the halfway, about midway point in the Pac-12, the 2021 class under Kevin Sumlin at the time, but not a lot of big names. Arizona was typically like their top offer. This is different. No, and there's a lot of these guys have had big accolades too. Noah Fafita, Keyan's teammate at Servite High School, who was named a top 10 high school quarterback by Max Preps for 2022. He's a U of A commit. Tristan Munday, named to the high school Butkus Award list, a watch list last week. Grayson Stovall, the very first commit of this class, who we had on Wildcat Country way back when, named to the Arizona High School Football All-State Offensive First Team list. That's a mouthful, but still a big honor. These are guys who are likely to make an impact on the Wildcat uniform as soon as next season. And when you consider, Eric, what Phil Steele told us last week, and it's a great episode, go listen to it if you haven't already. He mentioned it's tough to recruit after so much losing. And Arizona is currently on a school record losing streak. What Jedd Fisch's staff has done to this point just can't be overstated. And I don't know if Arizona, like you said, Eric, is going to finish this recruiting class top 40 nationally or the top half or top third of the Pac-12. But the fact that they're where they are right now, 8 months removed from a winless season and a 70-7 loss to their rival, is promising, if nothing else, right? And that's what I was referring to with that tweet about how I was wrong about Jedd Fisch. It's one of the reasons I said it anyway. And I'm very interested to see if Fisch's staff could hold that position all the way up to the end of this recruiting period, even if they dip a little bit. Top 50, 6th or 7th in the Pac-12, that's a huge win considering where this program has been. And anything above that to me is just gravy.
And I look at this year's team before camp starts later this week, and I think about how it compares to what we saw on the field for the ASU game. And, obviously losing Gary Brightwell makes running backs a little bit more uncertain, Roy Lopez on the defensive line. But across the board, Arizona is in better shape today than they were when they took the field against ASU. The only position that I question is quarterback. Because I don't know. We have no idea if Gunnar Cruz or Jordan McLeod are going to be better than Grant Gunnell. But outside of that, I'm pretty confident when I say I think Arizona is better across the board, every position, except for maybe running back if you throw out Brightwell there because he was a talent and he was drafted obviously by the Giants and he's going to play in the NFL. But they have a depth back there. Drake Anderson came in, Jalen John, Michael Wiley, Stevie Rocker. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting someone because it's a deep group. Wide receivers I love. Bryce Wolma at tight end is going to be utilized. The offensive line probably comparable to last year. The defense, another thing that came out in the last few days, Trayshawn Hayward from Western Michigan, who had committed in, I believe, February to Arizona, then was out and gone. Now he's coming back. So now you're looking at a bunch of guys that were contributors at other schools. Gunnar Maldonado was one. I'm sure I'm missing a few just off the top of my head without having the roster in front of me. But this is a defense that should be much improved, and we know it's going to be much, much better coached by Don Brown.
Trey Hayward, the Majon ride on the defensive side, he's going and he's leaving, he's gone and he's coming back. And we're glad he's looks like he's back now. And I think that was reported by Michael Lev of the Daily Star, so I'm going to give a shout out to him. One thing I forgot to follow up on with Phil Steele is he mentioned that there should be a good quarterback battle between Jordan McLeod and Will Plummer. He didn't mention Gunnar Cruz. And someone on Twitter actually noted that. It's like, that's true. I wish I would have followed up on that. And as thorough as Phil Steele is, I don't necessarily think it was an oversight, but maybe it was. Or maybe he just thinks that McLeod and Plummer are the two guys to compete for the position. But regardless, I think they have three. If Plummer could get a little more accurate, maybe. I think he could be a decent starter, but I think it'll be between McLeod and Gunnar Cruz. But quarterback still, it's a big deal. You say, well, they improved every position except quarterback. Well, quarterback is probably the most important one. But like I said last week, if in their first season, McLeod or Cruz or Plummer ends up being a middle of the road Power 5 quarterback, like serviceable, I guess is what I would say. A guy who throws more touchdown passes than picks. I think this could be a team that outperforms what Vegas is saying, which is 2.5 wins is what you were saying. A 4-win season, like Phil Steele was saying, you win a couple games maybe in non-conference and you get a couple surprises, or at least one surprise in conference play. I think 4-8 is realistic. And like you said, as long as this team is playing better at the end of the season than they were at the beginning, and I would be shocked if they weren't injuries allow, then I think that we're all going to be very, very hopeful and buy even more into what Jedd Fisch is doing going into 2022 in that recruiting class that he's putting together. It's looking better every single day.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, Shane, it's going to sound crazy, but and I'm going to come off like our buddy Jeff Dean. There's just something in my gut, and we'll make our official predictions in a few weeks. There's something in my gut that says Arizona might be playing ASU for bowl eligibility. And maybe I'm just overly optimistic, and I may revise that prediction once I do a little bit more homework. The schedule is not easy, but I mean, the more I think about it, if a quarterback can be found in camp, I'm going to get really bullish on this team. Who knows what BYU is going to look like? I know they were a top 10 team at one point last year, but they also had a guy in Zach Wilson who was drafted number 2 overall, and they lost a lot. Is that a game where Arizona, we know, is going to be mighty pumped up with a new coach? BYU, we don't know what we're going to see from them. Wildcats probably lose that game. I think, as Phil said, next week, the key for Arizona's early season is that San Diego State game on September 11th. You have to win that game. San Diego State's not a bad team, but one thing about the Aztecs last year, they did not pass the ball well. They did not score a lot. They relied on a good defense. This is a game where Arizona can, the first one to 21 wins. And so that's where the Wildcats, with this defense, the talent will be there. If they can mesh this offseason, it will be very interesting to see what they do in Game 2 against San Diego State. But we'll skip the 2021 season here for a second, Shane. We'll talk about 2022 with Kian Burnett, the Wildcats' newest 4-star commit on Wildcat Country. Shane, as we've been talking about earlier in the show, recruiting is really picked up for the Wildcats, and the excitement from the fan base is palpable, and that is because of the commitment of Kian Burnett, a legacy because his dad, Chester, played at Arizona during the Desert Swarm, but he is a 4-star tight end out of Servite High School in Anaheim, and his quarterback happens to be another player that we have had on Wildcat Country, Noah Fafita. So we're really excited to see those two in Wildcat red, white, and blue starting in 2022. But Kian, first of all, thank you for joining us. How does it feel to know that your commitment has just super energized this fan base, which has been down for recruiting for many years, and now they are sky high because of you deciding to commit to Arizona?
Yeah, it's a blessing for sure, just to know that I can impact that many people. I'm really fired up. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the future.
Kian, first of all, congratulations on your commitment, and thanks for joining us. I got to ask, can you take us into your official visit to Tucson, and maybe what set that visit apart from some of the others you took during your recruiting process and let you know that this is where you needed to be?
Yeah, I was honestly blown away by everything they had for me and my teammates. I went there with Noah and T-Mac, as you know. But yeah, just the whole family culture that they have instilled there in this new coaching staff. And I can definitely see all the changes they're making moving forward with this program. And I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to getting involved.
Like Eric mentioned, we all know your dad played for Coach Tomey at Arizona. And your commitment video on YouTube, you said Arizona was a place that gave my dad every opportunity to succeed. And then hearing about the Desert Swarm and what they accomplished is this stuff that you grew up on. What role did that play in your decision to come to Arizona?
It was great. It's great that my dad went there. I can't explain the feeling that I have, like, just going to the same school that my dad went to. It's really awesome. And I'm really happy I'm able to do that.
Tell us about the coaching staff. Who was your main recruiter, and who are you closest with on Jedd Fisch's staff?
I love the whole staff. I would say my main recruiter was Coach Jordan Powpow. He's probably the guy I'm closest to also. But, yeah, I love everybody. Coach Brennan Carroll has been great to me. Coach Sanders too. Everyone has been great.
How much of an impact was Noah committing to Arizona a few months ago in your decision to decommit from USC and now, attend your father's alma mater?
I I would say it was a solid impact. Noah is a guy I've been playing with since 8th grade. So yeah, him going there, it definitely meant something, meaning that we already have chemistry established. So yeah.
Just tell us about your relationship, Kian, with Noah and T-Mac. I'm not going to try to pronounce his first name because I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to call him T-Mac. I'm glad I have that option. Just tell me about the relationship between the three of you and what makes you so tight.
Man, just playing together. Just playing together for so long. I can't explain it. We won 8th grade year for the number 1 team in the nation. So just those are my guys. Just got there grinding since 8th grade. Obviously, I went to J. Sarah for 2 years while they were out certified, but we're back together now and better than ever, I think. So yeah, it's great, and it'd be a blessing to play with all three of them. I mean, the other two for the next 4 years. So
you still got work to do there because Noah's committed, you're committed. Are you all working on T-Mac now? How's that going?
Yeah, need one more. We're fingers crossed.
Are you and Noah bugging him on a daily basis, or just letting him go through the process, or?
I mean, it's bugging him to an extent, I mean, at the same time, I want to respect his time. And yeah, it's an important time for everybody going through this process. At the same time, it's a blessing. So
since Shane and I don't know much about the recruiting process, obviously being recruited, I'm not an athlete and never have been. Shane, maybe you were more of an athlete than I was, but we never got recruited by anything.
I did a little bit of curling a few years ago.
Yeah, yes, of course, something like that. So Kian, do you enjoy the recruiting process? Is it fun? Is it stressful? I mean, how have you looked at it over the past few years?
I would say it's pretty fun, just because if you look at it, like how many kids are actually in this position, like it's just a blessing to be here. So it's definitely fun. It did get a little stressful, I'd say, towards I committed to USC back March 5th. So around that time it was pretty stressful, but other than that, it was pretty fun.
When you were coming to Arizona as a tight end, obviously, I know you've played defensive line as well in high school. Tell us who you model your game after as a tight end, and what can fans expect to see from you as a player on the field in Tucson?
I would say Hunter Henry is a guy I definitely look up to. I try to model my game after him for sure. So yeah, just being able to dominate both in the run block game and the pass game, I think is something I can do well, and I'm looking forward to showing it.
You probably know, Kian, there's another pretty good tight end who used to play for Arizona. Is it kind of cool for you to think that you're following in the footsteps of the future Hall of Famer, Rob Gronkowski?
It's amazing. It's crazy for me to think that I'm going to the same school as Gronk. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully meet him one day too.
So you obviously know Arizona has not been good the last couple of years, and that's an understatement, really. It a long losing streak. I mean, you know all about it. I don't have to go through the history of it, but what about this coaching staff and this program that makes you believe that you could be a part of a rebirth, and like you said in your YouTube video, be even better than this program was in the Dick Tomey era? Yeah,
just ever since Coach Fisch and this new staff came in, like I said, the changes they've made they've been crazy. I've seen the drastic leaps they're taking with the program. I feel like they've really picked up. They stayed solid on the recruiting, like towards me. So I felt like I'm really a big target for them. Even when I committed to USC, like they've continued establishing a relationship, like in a respectful way, but at the same time, staying on me. So yeah, it's headed in the right direction, I think.
So your dad played obviously in the 90s, and the biggest rival for Arizona is ASU. Now, what has he told you about the rivalry, and otherwise, what do you know about U of A ASU?
I haven't heard much about the rivalry. I know it goes way back, way back. I've watched some of his tapes back in the day when they were playing ASU. It's been fun to watch, but I haven't heard much about it, to be honest.
Shane, can you clue Kian in on a few things that you would know about the rivalry?
I don't think I need to, just because when you get there, you'll know. People out of state assume it's an in-state rivalry, so it's a big deal. There's a lot of off-field stuff that goes into it. Did your dad tell you anything about any of the games he played in against the Sun Devils?
Against the Sun Devils, I've heard so much from so many different teams.
Yeah.
I don't remember much from the Sun Devils. Nothing specific, no.
You'll get to know. And you'll hear about 70-7 real quick if you haven't already. That's already weighing on a lot of fans' minds.
And when he goes to Tempe in 2024, when they start throwing stuff at you, you'll know the rivalries in full effect, because that's apparently what they do at Sun Devil Stadium. They throw projectiles at the players. Yeah, that's fun. So off the field, tell us what you do in your spare time, not as a football player.
Me, I'm big on family time. I'm big on cherishing my free time when I get it. So I would say going to see a movie. I love the movie theaters, or maybe just going out to get dinner with my family.
When you're going to school at Arizona, do you have an idea what you're thinking of doing, majoring in and going for professionally outside of football?
Yeah, I want to pursue a career in real estate development. So I want to get in a real estate program in Arizona.
Last question for you, Kian. We appreciate your time. You mentioned in your video about Brendan Carroll being I don't know if you use the term wizard. I think that's the word you used. He hasn't been an offense coordinator before. This is his first go around. What about Brendan Carroll do you really like, and why are you looking to be a part of his offense?
And just when you look at experience in this game, it's huge. So a guy like him who's coached so many great teams, so many great players, it really means a lot. So, he's a great guy. I feel like me and him have a great relationship, and I'm looking forward to playing for him for sure.
Well, your commitment has reinvigorated the fan base. It's the first really exciting commitment that I think Arizona, just the series of commits that Jedd Fisch is getting, but to have a 4-star without even having coached a game at Arizona, Jedd Fisch is doing a great job. And Kian, we're really excited to see you on the field in Tucson in 2022. Thank you so much for joining Shane and I. Have a great season, and we hope to talk to you again before you get on campus.
Thank you for having me.
We want to thank Kian Burnett for joining us. And Shane, it's just, a player of this caliber coming onto Arizona's offense in 2022, this is a guy who's going to play right away. Unfortunately, I didn't ask him about that, his ability or his wanting to play right away. But I have to think, for a guy that's a 4-star commit, with Bryce Wolma graduating after this year, Keyan Burnett's going to start from day one, right?
I'd be shocked if he wasn't on the field next year. Yeah, and what's interesting, Eric, is if Keyan Burnett is as good as advertised, he's perfectly capable of surpassing Rob Gronkowski's numbers at Arizona. Because let's remember, Gronk only played 22 games for the Wildcats. He missed the entire 2009 season due to injury, and then he went pro. He ended his college career with 75 catches, 1,197 yards, and 16 touchdowns. Those are all school records, but very beatable simply because it was just 2 seasons worth of statistics. So we got a small sample size at Gronk, kind of like we did with Scooby Wright on the defensive side of the ball. So don't want to get too far ahead of myself, or maybe I do. But if Keyan Burnett is as good as the ratings show, then and Brendan Carroll and Jordan Paopao utilize him the right way, then I think he could end up breaking those records in 2024, let's say. So thrilled to have him on board, and hopefully he's able to bring his another teammate along with him here soon.
Yeah, you look at what Florida did with Kyle Pitts last year, where they utilized him essentially as their number one receiver. That could be Keyan Burnett. Now, if his teammate T-Mac commits, his high school teammate, then there's a different story. But Florida also had a number one draft pick as a wide receiver in Kadarius Toney. So Arizona could have that offense. They could have that Servite offense in a few years with Fafita, T-Mac, and Keyan. That would be dynamic and would make some noise in the Pac-12. I'll tell you, the Wildcats are going to be, if Jedd Fisch can keep up this momentum long-term, things are going to get exciting for Arizona fans. Now, kind of segueing here, Shane, when you look at the basketball team, the momentum amongst fans for recruiting has been kind of like a roller coaster this offseason. We've had our ups, keeping Kirk Kriisa, Ben Mathurin, Azuolas Tubelis, adding Pelly Larson, Justin Kier. So the Bull, or the guy from Ball from Gonzaga, amongst others. The team looks pretty good on paper, but things got even better this past weekend when Kim Aiken, who was an original commit to Sean Miller as a grad transfer, decided to come back to Tommy Lloyd.
First of all, when you say the basketball team, you have to specify men's basketball, because the women's hoops teams earn that respect. So I'm just throwing that out there. I watched a news report from late April on YouTube after Kim Aiken committed to Washington State. He said he was inspired to pick Washington State after listening to a church sermon about David and Goliath. And he said maybe it wasn't meant to be to go to a top-notch school like Arizona, but he was okay with becoming a David and going to Washington State. So I guess that means Aiken is going to be a Goliath now. I don't know if Arizona is still considered a Goliath in the men's basketball world, but I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if you saw this about Kim Aiken. Apparently, he was denied admission into Washington State's political science graduate program, despite having a 3.48 GPA from Eastern Washington. First of all, if you have any idea how grueling a schedule student athletes have, regardless of the sport, a 3.48 GPA is incredible. Okay, and I understand standards are standards, and standards are standards, and it might be a bad look if Washington State made an exception for a student athlete, but it's unfortunate that his hard work apparently wasn't rewarded in this case. But nonetheless, glad that he decided to come back to Arizona, and their loss will definitely be our gain.
Yeah, this kind of rounds out the roster and adds that depth, some front court depth that Arizona needed. I mean, this roster, assuming, these sophomores take the next step. I mean, Ben Mathurin, I saw a mock draft for 2022 already where he was a lottery pick. Tubelis, Tubelis wouldn't shock me if he eventually turns into a lottery pick. Kirk Kriisa has high expectations right there. I mean, we know UCLA is going to be far and above everybody in the conference this year. Oregon is always solid. USC takes a step back, losing Evan Mobley, who went number 3 overall in the draft last week. There's no reason Arizona can't be in the top 4 here. And I am bullish on Tommy Lloyd. I think he's going to do a great job. I love bringing back Jason Gardner to the staff, kind of bringing that tradition. I love what Arizona's sports teams have done as a whole in terms of going back to their roots. And I think Jedd Fisch kind of inspired that because he was the first one that brought that on. Sean Miller wasn't huge on going back to the past, and he did a little bit of that. I guess he brought back Jason Terry last year and had Jack Murphy on his staff. Jason Terry left to go to the Mavericks, but to have, Jason Gardner, that would be, that's a great hire. And, to embrace that, keep Jack Murphy on board, to embrace the old Lute Olson culture. We've seen that with Dick Tomey and Jedd Fisch. It's nice to see that with basketball. But the roster on the court, I am very pleased with what I see from this Arizona team, and they should be a tournament team. You can't convince me right now that this team is not going to be in the big dance next year.
Eligibility permitting, I tend to agree with you. I lean on that side of the bubble. But if you count Aiken as a guy Tommy Lloyd was able to retain from the Sean Miller era because he committed a day before Sean Miller was fired. You've got Aiken along with Tubelis, Mathurin, Kriisa, Dalen Terry, Christian Coloco, and then Shane Noel, who committed to Arizona under Sean Miller, a freshman coming in. 7 guys. And you look at the additions beyond that, some good additions, although likely no one who's going to necessarily be a star, at least not right away. My question for this team going into next season, beyond the obvious of how they're going to make the transition from Miller to Lloyd, is who's the go-to guy late in games? Who wants the ball in his hands in the final seconds with the game on the line? That guy last season was James Akinjo. And for better or worse, he wanted that pressure. He embraced that pressure. Who's it going to be this year? There are a lot of guys who say they want that pressure, but I think only a handful who actually do and actually perform well in those situations. And it's usually the deciding factor in at least 2 or 3 games each season. They come down to the line or the last second shot. And, if Arizona's a borderline NCAA tournament team, which I think they are, that could ultimately decide whether they advance to the tournament, assuming, again, and it's a big assumption, that they're going to be eligible next season.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, assuming that they are eligible, you're right. I should have put that as the caveat. Azuolas Tubelis, remember, hit the game-winning shot, I believe, against USC, a team that ended up in the Elite Eight. So that's one. But the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands to end the game next year, in my opinion, is no doubt Ben Mathurin. He is a lights-out shooter. This is a guy who's fearless. When he gets hot, he can score with anybody in the Pac-12. And this is a guy who you put the ball in his hands at this point. Now, Kirk Kriisa could come into that and end up being that guy. But right now it's Ben Mathurin. You put the ball in his hands and you let him go to work. Yeah,
I think that's fine. I just think that there's a difference between being a great in college basketball, being a great player for the first 39 minutes and then being a great player for the last minute. So you mentioned Tubelis, and of course Tubelis also had that putback against ASU that was a quote unquote pass, I think from James McKinney.
Oh, that's right. Maybe that's the one I was thinking of, not USC, but the ASU. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It wasn't really he was there, but anyway, I'm just saying, it's a rare breed of guys who really want that pressure, and so I'm hoping that there's a guy on this team. Maybe it's an incoming transfer. Maybe it's Kirk Kriisa. We haven't seen a lot of him. Who want take that last second shot and have that burden and have to answer reporters' questions if he misses it and all that good stuff. But no, I think that Arizona is a top half of the Pac-12 team. I don't think they're number 9 like John Wilner thinks. I think UCLA is the clear-cut number 1, but as the roster is right now, they really didn't land a big impact, like a third guy to really complement the top two of Matherin and Tubelis. So I don't think that they're necessarily right behind UCLA. But I think if Tubelis and Matherin can continue to improve, like we talked about, Kirk Kriisa has a full season to play. I think this is a team that could win 20 games. They got presumably have the home court advantage, hopefully have a packed McHale Center. That makes a difference as opposed to the piped-in crowd noise. I think this is a tournament team. I know we'll get into that a little bit more as we get closer. But now I like what Tommy Lloyd has done, but like people have noted, the big question is, he hasn't coached a game. Can he coach? And he's never been a head coach before. Jedd Fisch has more head coaching experience than Tommy Lloyd does. It's just kind of funny how that works. But I'm encouraged, and I do think they will be in the NCAA tournament, eligibility permitting.
Shane, I think we can all agree that the 2021-2022 school year is going to be the most interesting for Arizona athletics in quite a while for all sports. How do the spring sports follow up their incredible runs, and how do the fall sports, and I'm going to throw basketball in there because I know they're kind of a winter sport, how do they adapt to their new coaches? And I know you could say the same for softball and baseball, but especially football and men's basketball, which are the two most notable sports at most schools. At Arizona, this is uncharted territory. When's the last time they've had a new coach and a new football coach and a new basketball coach in the same season? Probably before we were alive. I mean, Lute Olson was there since the mid-'80s. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. I'm really excited to get this going, and we will have some live football in just about a month from this weekend, and I cannot wait, Shane. It's going to be an absolute blast. Well, want to thank Kian Burnett for joining us. Want to thank our friends at All AZ Sports for all the work that they do with us and for having us be a part of the website, and check them out at allazsports.com. For my co-host Shane Dale, I am Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening, and as always, bear down.